What up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Miles of Horror, your hub for all things horror, physical media, and indie cult cinema. And as always, the only channel that's going to make you scream. If you guys would be so kind as to hit that like button, please subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. I'm like literally on the verge of 500 subscribers. I need like 4 more or 5 more. I'm at like 495, something like that. So share it with your friends. Let's get to 500 before the weekend's up. And let's get right into today's topic because we're talking R.L. Stein's Fear Street, Prom Queen, Netflix movie special. And I'm seeing all kinds of things about this, guys. All kinds of mixed reviews. And I gotta tell you right off the bat is I loved it. Okay, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was excellent. There were definitely some changes between the book and the movie. But that's okay, right? And now I haven't read the book in probably 4 years. I did a reread a number of years ago, but I don't remember too much. But let me get into let me get into my review of this and what I thought, because I really want to hear your opinions, because it seems like so many of the outlets and media sources are like bashing it and not liking it, but all the fans, like all the horror fans and the R.L. Stein people are loving it. So it's interesting how there's that dichotomy, right? Like if it's like a big name source or like whatever it is, it's not really getting great reviews, but the real horror fans are really kind of vibing with it. So anyway, right off the bat, I just want to say one quick thing. And that is that the two main characters, right? So India Fowler and Susanna Song, I believe is her name, who play Laurie Granger and Megan Rogers, the two main characters, respectively, were excellent. Okay. They both did a fantastic job in this movie. Okay. And I'd argue that they actually made the movie for me in quite a few ways. I thought Laurie Granger was an absolute megastar. Okay, mark my words. I don't know what else she's been in or what she's going to be in, or if she has anything lined up, but she's gonna be an absolute megastar. Okay, so these two right here, okay, Laurie and Megan, they just, they just hit really hard for me. I thought they did a phenomenal job, with not just acting, but with their roles specifically. I thought they were casted really, really well, and I just love them. Obviously, Megan was my favorite character, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of horror fans are gonna like Megan quite a bit. She's like a big horror file, and I'll get into that in just a second. But let's get into some of the Easter eggs from this movie, because there was quite a bit of them throughout this movie. And right off the bat, in one of the early scenes, there's in a bathroom in school, there's a sign that says Sarah Fear lives. Okay, or there's not a sign rather, but it's some graffiti that said Sarah Fear lives, which in the lore of Fear Street, Sarah Fear is accused of being a witch. And I believe, to my understanding, she was hung in 1666. I think that was actually in the trilogy that they did. And it's somewhat implied, if I'm not mistaken, that the spirit of Sarah Fear haunts Shadyside. So that was a common theme kind of throughout the series. So this was a neat little Easter egg for them to do. I really enjoyed that they did that. Next up, we had a Phantasm 2 sighting, which I thought was just awesome. It really felt like they were appeasing true horror fans. Not only did Phantasm 2 show on the bill up top on top of the theater, but they actually did a short scene in the theater where they're watching it, and there's like couples making out and stuff in true 80s theater fashion, but where you see Angus Scrim is the tall man, and one of the balls, kills the scene when the ball kills the guy, like drills through his head. Like, I just thought that was so cool the way they did that. And it's definitely it's clear that they it was a love letter in so many ways to 1988 and to horror fans, and it just was really fun for me to see all that stuff. Besides the fact that I really enjoyed the characters and the plot and yada yada. So we had Phantasm 2. Then we have Megan again, who was my favorite character. She's a big horror file. She invites Laurie over to watch a movie because she rented Lost Boys again, which just to see that and hear that she, in 2025 was just so awesome. Like, she rented Lost Boys again. Like that's something I would have done back then. If I was old enough to be renting tapes in 1988. I was only 2 years old at the time, but I thought that was a really nice touch the way they did that. And what made me love her character. Megan also had a Lucio Fulci zombie poster in her bedroom. I mean, come on. I had that DVD growing up. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies. Like, it's just so, so cool. And I'm sure as I said, any horror fan is sure to love Megan's character. Um, she was angsty and she read a Fangoria magazine in one scene. She just rocked. And I think both the best friends were spectacular. I think they did a phenomenal job casting those two and building their connection. And I'll get more into that later. But next up, let's talk about the first kill because, and again, if you have not seen this, let me just make it clear now. There will be spoilers here. Okay. I'm going to be spoiling quite a bit. I'm not holding back on this one. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't watch this. Okay. Um, so the first kill, right? We have Christy. Now she is like a weed dealer. She deals bud, and she's doing a drug deal, and she kind of like walks back to her residence, and she gets axed in the back. And I thought that was solid. Okay, I thought overall the movie wasn't necessarily too gory, but I think that there was plenty to be happy with. I think there was definitely enough to appease, a gore whore, someone that was looking for some of that same gore that was in the trilogy that they did. I think they did a good job with it. Nothing too over the top. That there was enough there. Um, One thing that I absolutely loved, truly, was the major focus on the actual prom queen like winner. Okay, the prom queen competition. In fact, there's even like this play by play as the prom, just as it's starting, as they were kind of like introducing all the nominees. There's like just a backdrop of a fluff. There's a backdrop of like a play by play where they're going through all the prom queens, and I thought that was again like a nice touch because it really kept the focus for the entire movie on the prom queen competition. That was the forefront always, and it never took a backseat to anything else. And I thought that's one of the reasons why the movie worked so well, right? The prom queen debate, you never really knew who was going to win, and it made it feel like a huge deal. You had all these different characters vying for this, and now is at the forefront of the whole movie. So I thought that was a really nice touch the way they did that. Um, the soundtrack was excellent. Okay, you have banging songs, truly. Like I Think We're Alone Now, Billy Idol's White Wedding, Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. You had Hungry Like the Wolf. You had Sweet Dreams Are Made of These. You Keep Me Hanging On, and a ton of other great hits. Okay, the music was really hitting throughout. And I actually watched the first half of this with my headphones in on my computer, and I was bobbing out, man. I had a great time with it. There's also some cool 80s synth vibes that really sets the tone for the movie. And although not everything was necessarily 100% accurate, it was definitely a solid depiction of school and the time period. I thought it hit really well. Definitely a good depiction of 80s. So the acting and the characters were excellent. But here's like there was one major tiff, if you will, no pun intended, that I had with the movie. Okay, there were two small things that I had, but this was like the big one that really I would have changed it if I could have, and that was that the main mean girl, like the main enemy in the movie, who spoiler alert. So again, I'm gonna be spoiling everything. I'm gonna be talking about the whole series. So if or the whole movie, if you did not see it, look away now. But the main mean girl, Tiffany, okay, who actually ends up being the killer, I thought she was one of the killers, rather. I thought she was kind of lame. Okay, I didn't think she was great. She just wasn't evil enough for me. This was my one main gripe. I have one other small one, but yeah, that one really doesn't matter. But this is my only actual issue. I thought she was fine. She did okay, but other parts were done so incredibly well, like Lori and Megan, that I wished they got more of like a mega uber bitch. To be honest with you, like she never really felt as believable to me as a real mean girl. Even towards the end of the movie and very end when she eats it, which by the way is an, an awesome death, probably my favorite death in the movie. She gets impaled on a table. She gets like karate kicked. I believe it's a karate kick over the balcony, and her innards just explode when she hits the table. It was kind of cool, but I never hated her. Like there was never a moment where I like really despised her character, which I thought was like the whole point of her character, right? To be this uber mean, uber bitch. And I never really felt that way towards her. I think they could have done a better job casting. No disrespect to the actress. She did a good job acting, but I don't know. I didn't really buy that she was this mean girl. As much as I think I could have to make it better for me. But anyway, another thing that I loved, right? When they were going over the announcements and announcing the the nominees for the prom, the four mean girls step up, and here you go. I'll show it to you. They deliver this full on dance routine in these American flag one piece dresses, and it's vibey. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it really feels um vibey and like very chic and very 80s and totally something like the cool kids would have done back in the 80s, right? To like show off. I thought that was a nice little touch, and this is what they wore, by the way. So I thought that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. Um, One other thing, a random, totally random thing I loved was there's two of the characters go into the basement before they get before they died, and as they're going down, it's dark in the hallways, and there's just a couple making out by the lockers, and you have no idea who they are. They're just like um random characters, but I thought that was just such a nice vibe. I don't know what it was about that, but that really just like it hit for me. I really like the fact that they added that in there. They could have easily just left it, a hallway alone, but they put just a couple there aggressively making out in the lockers because that's just such a like an 80s 90s thing to do, and I really enjoyed that they did that. So let's hit up the violence, the gore, and the deaths. Like I said, I thought it was solid. There was nothing too crazy. I think Tiffany's death was probably the most gory, and it was pretty gory. That was probably the one that was the most bloody. Um, by way of impalement. And I thought that was awesome. Okay. So we also get death by a paper cutter. We get a paper cutter cuts off both of some dude's hands. There's some axing being done. We have bludgeoning by way of a trophy. We have electrocution. Nothing was, insanely extraordinary. But then again, the vibe was 80s slasher for this thing, and that's what it was. It was fun. Like, this was the kind of thing that if you went to go see this in the 80s, like, this is what was out. This is what was happening. These were just the slashers that were coming out. I think they did that really well. I don't think anything was too over the top. And all these people that are giving bad reviews, I don't know if they actually um they're watching it for what the intention is, right? The intention was really for what's in right now, and that's 80s slashers. So my other big gripe about this again, this is more like technical. Beside the fact that Tiffany's character, I did not win me over. I thought she was pretty lame. She wasn't as mean of a girl as I would have hoped. There was one random scene with like this dance off. Okay, not the American flag mean girl dance routine. That was cool, but there was actually like a dance off between Tiffany and Lori, and it's kind of like in a pivotal scene of the movie where there's this serious character development happening, and all of a sudden the DJ announces this like random dance off between Lori and Tiffany, and it was just, to be honest with you, like super cringe and didn't even make sense in context of what was happening. And in the movie itself, like, it just came out of left field. It was just weird. The time of it was off. I don't know what the intention was with that, and I wish they would have left it out. It didn't affect the movie for me because I'm someone that can easily look past it, but it really felt forced and not intention. I don't know what the intention was. You know what I mean? Um, so like I mentioned before, I really loved the main character Lori, and her relationship with her best friend Megan. Their relationship really made the movie for me. It felt so real, so believable, and even when they got into their little tiff, their little fight, it didn't feel forced in any way. Like, both of their characters were so good and believable that when Lori is finally about to kiss the jock and her crush, and she's trying to Megan's trying to convince her that there are murders happening, and it was just a very real situation grounded in reality. And that is absolutely kind of hard to believe, but they made me believe that this could be a real situation. Right. And then immediately after that, they get into this fight, and Lori struggles with what happened because her character is believable. And you want to believe that this is what she really would be thinking. And then in true jock fashion, right, the jock starts to get pushy and aggressive. So I thought they just did a really good job with those two characters, especially when they got into their little fight. And then finally at the end, right, the killer finally unleashes on the prom. And this one chick gets the whole bottom of her leg from the calf down sliced off, and she just crumbles. The killer just starts slashing limbs off of people left and right. And that ruled. I thought that scene was so cool. Again, spoiler alert. Chris Klein, Oz Striker himself, just starts slashing limbs off people. And I also love that Laurie and her best friend almost die for each other. I thought that was a really, really well done piece, and it further created this bond between the two of them that I just loved. So, listen, all in all, I thought it was rad, guys. I thought it was truly an 80s slasher. That had tons of Easter eggs, really good character development, minus Tiffany, and it was just fun. Like again, this thing's getting ragged on quite a bit by big sources, but like this is better than 70% of the horror movies that are put out. Truly, I think that like there's so much garbage that's put out all the time. This had vibes, man, and I think that's what people want. They just want the vibes. Like, give us the vibes, give us fun kills, and like I'll be happy. So listen, I really enjoyed it. Prom Queen, Fear Street, really, really nice. The only difference that I'll say, to, if I remember correctly, and shout out to my girl Alyssa, who reminded me of this, but the killer is actually different in the book. So the killer is actually one of the girls, if I'm not mistaken, not Tiffany. So some differences there, but I thought it was great. A little, so I heard someone say predictable. I guess you can call it that. I didn't predict it. I had no idea, but I thought it was just fun. So sound off in the comments. Let me know if you guys have watched this, if you've seen it, because I know a lot of people are really excited about it, myself included. And I wanted to get this review out to you guys this weekend. So hit me up. Let me know what you guys thought. And as always, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Your boy Miles out. Peace.